Well, welcome back to Simple Truth, where we're trying to draw some simple truths out of the truth, right? And we're in 1 Samuel. We're in chapter 24. We're in verse 2. Just talked about the last time. Are you aware that you have an enemy who's obsessed with you? In verse 2, then Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of all of Israel and went to seek David and his men in front of the wild goats' rocks. And he came to the sheepfolds by the way where there was a cave. Saul went in to relieve himself. Now David and his men were sitting in the innermost parts of the cave. Again, the setup to this is important, right? I wish that God removed our enemy every time, right? But God doesn't. God allows the enemy really close access to us. He allows us to be in the same cave with the enemy, right? He allows the enemy access to us and our families and our friends, right? Why? Because that's the way that free will works, right? In order for you to have free will, you have to have a real enemy. You have to have two real choices or more than two real choices, right? But you have to have the ability to be able to say no. You have to have the ability to be able to say yes. And in order to do that, you need a real enemy. And that enemy has to have access. Otherwise, it's just a game, right? The game is, well, we have an enemy, but he doesn't have any real access to me. Can't really affect me. And if I remember that, right, then I'm going to be okay. It's a little bit like on Rudolph, right, where the abominable snowman loses his teeth. Man, he's big. Yep, he's still scary, but he doesn't have any teeth. He has no bite. He can't do anything to you. Right? There are a lot of people who are going to go out and they're going to tell you that our enemy has no teeth. He can't bite you. He can't hurt you. Right? No, he can. And he's actually given the ability to sift. Right? That's what Jesus said to Peter. Hey, the enemy, Satan, has asked to sift you. And Jesus didn't say no. What if your enemy has 3,000 chosen men and is coming after you deliberately? What if God allows that process to get all the way to a cave, right? A cave moment where you're hiding in the cave and the enemy comes in the cave. Man, that is super close. You are just one moment, one cough, right? One breath away from the enemy having you in his grasp. We love the idea of God saving us way before the last moment. But there are moments where in order to fulfill the whole free will thing, in order to fulfill the whole idea of that we have a real enemy, is he as powerful as God? No. Is he as great as God? No. Does he know everything like God? No. He's not equal to God in any way, shape, or form. But he has to be able to be a real adversary. Saul takes 3,000 men and he chases after David, who, by the way, has a mighty men, right? 600 or so at this point, right? But God allows Saul to get really close to him. So maybe that simple truth is something that you and I should chew on for a second. Are you struggling with cancer? Are you struggling with other disease? Are you struggling with finances? Are you struggling in relationships? And you're wondering, why did God allow this? Why did God allow this to get this close to me? God allows things to get that close to us because he wants us to choose him. And the truth is, it's super easy to stand on the outside and say, yep, I'd choose God every time. Yep, I would choose him. Yep, I would choose him every time. But then you get in the middle of the battle and the enemy is right on you and he's breathing on your neck and you can feel his presence. You can see his presence. Are you still choosing God? Are you crying out to God? And again, God wants us to have these moments so that we do it on the front side, so that he knows, man, you're going to do it. But if he allowed Abraham to put his son on an altar and to lift the knife in the air and be a moment away from plunging that into Isaac, then he's also willing to allow you to get that close. Doesn't mean, right, that God does it and it's a game and he's playing with it and he gets some kind of sick pleasure out of it. It means it's the whole idea of free will. At the moments, you have a choice. But if the enemy isn't allowed to get close to you, how are you going to really know what your faith is like? How are you going to really know what's going on? Again, it's part of that process that you and I go through. So take a moment, think about that, chew on that. We'll see you next time right here on Simple Truth.